Hello and welcome to our 22nd edition of FSI Fridays. I'm Johansson live in Charlotte, joined by Edwin in Boston. Hey Edwin, what do we have lined up for today?
Happy Friday, Johansson and everyone watching. Today we're going to talk about how COVID has accelerated a shift to a digital business model for many financial organizations in record time. Next, we'll discuss multiple dimensions and phases that have helped financial services organizations remain resilient through the pandemic. Third, with the upward trend of the proliferation of data and speed of events reaching peaks during the pandemic, we'll learn how organizations have harnessed the cloud to keep up. Then we'll wrap it up with Q&A today on FSI Fridays. For those of you watching live or on YouTube, as a quick reminder, we'll spend around 30 minutes on today's topic and leave the last 10 minutes to address any burning questions. So please use the Q&A window and we'll monitor for questions during the presentation. If you're watching the recording, feel free to use the comments below to ask your question. So let's get started and meet the presenters for today. Johansson, who's our special guests this week?
Thanks, Edwin. So we're honored to be joined by two special guests today. But let's start with Mike Triolo, Microsoft's Managing Director for Intelligent Cloud. Thanks for being on the show today. Can you let our audience know what your role is at Microsoft and what's in your typical day? We also hear you love cooking and have never used prepackaged pasta from a bottle.
That's absolutely right. So thanks for having me. So I run Microsoft's Intelligent Cloud business for our financial services vertical in the US. And for us, that's really all of our app dev, infrastructure, data, artificial intelligence platforms, and the teams that support our customers across the country. It's a really exciting space, changing every day. On the cooking comment, yeah, that's absolutely true. I cook a ton, probably 95% of the cooking in my house. And yes, never have bought jarred pasta sauce. Actually, make my own. Jar it myself. The benefit of doing all this cooking is that you kind of have food on demand. The downside is my daughter has picked up the cooking bug and she bakes constantly. So the COVID-19 weight gain is probably in play at my house. This week was oversized chocolate chip cookies and lemon poppy muffins. So lots of baking going on here.
Mike, that's the best of both worlds. I'm the cooker. My wife's a baker, so it's a lot of fun. We should watch you on a TV show. Maybe you'll have a show on Netflix. Teach us how to cook. So thank you. We're also joined by Shaka Rasheed, General Manager for U.S. Financial Services. Shaka, what's your role at Microsoft, and what's your typical day? I've also heard you have an interesting two truths and a lie story. I'm honestly stumped on which is which. So can you share that with us as well?
So I'm the general manager for Microsoft's capital markets business. That is our effort to engage investment banks, broker-dealers, asset and wealth managers across traditional and alternative space. It expands to universe of payment companies, data providers. It's a very interesting patch. Exchanges as well. So we deal with all of the things, everything and the solutions that Microsoft has to engage that segment of the financial services industry. And two truths and a lies. Interesting. I was thinking about that, and I got to make it good. Okay, all right. I got a couple. I'm a certified aquanaut, like Jacques Cousteau. I spent 24 hours, at the bottom of the ocean, doing research from a vessel. Two is I was once prominently featured as a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Three is I covered the best-selling book that was featured on the cover of that book, and it was sold across Europe and the U.S. What do you think of those are true?
I don't know. What do you think, Johansson?
I'm thinking the Oprah story is a lie.
Yeah, all of those are true. So I've got an interesting ride coming into Microsoft.
So let's just jump right in. Shaka, I can't believe we're approaching, 3/4 of a year since we've been working remotely. Many of our customers are rethinking business resiliency and are looking to the cloud to help. To kick us off, can you share any new perspectives on the cloud in a post-COVID-19 world?
Thank you. I said that it's been a very interesting world since the evolution of COVID. When you think about it, with people living and working more digitally. Global corporate spending on cloud services jumped nearly $35 billion in Q2. up 11% from the first quarter of this year, and up 30%, 30, from a year ago. And a recent report found that more than 2/3 of organizations across industries are now using cloud-based services and apps. And that was actually something I read in the Wall Street Journal. The shift to digital business models during the pandemic has only added urgency to the need for swift and widespread cloud adoption. And we're seeing that all over with our customers. So as our CEO, Satya Nadella, was quoted in the height of COVID pandemic of saying that we've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months at the start of COVID. And even organizations that were further along in their digital transformation journey before the pandemic now need to move more quickly. So the imperative isn't just to transform, but to improve agility, resiliency, and stability to achieve faster returns on investment.
Shaka, I mean, 2 years in 2 months illustrates how impactful COVID has been and the need to respond quickly and resourcefully. So, in a previous FSI Friday session, Conan Thomas spoke about resiliency and how workplace analytics can be effective in understanding how companies can help employees more efficiently. Can you talk to us about how and what factors help companies remain resilient as we get through this?
Yeah, I'll try. Look, when I think about it at Microsoft, we believe that organizations require resiliency across 6 dimensions, right? One is to protect and grow top line. 2, develop agile operations. To enable people. Accelerate data and digital platforms. And to enhance cybersecurity. And then finally, I say to strengthen their financials. Once an organization is viable on each of these dimensions, it can build, I think, towards its full ambition, becoming future ready, we call it, in order to further weather other disruptions and differentiate itself to thrive in the future. So not just survive, but to thrive, we think is evolving around those 6 dimensions.
I love this approach of the 6 dimensions and this thought process as a way organizations can think about resiliency for the future. Thanks for the insights and setting that stage, Shaka. When we think about the acceleration of data and digital platforms, Mike, let's turn it over to you. Can you double click in this area for our audience and the importance of data and digital platforms as a dimension? Can we also get your thoughts on maybe how the cloud has helped our financial services customers weather the COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a few things, right? One is we've seen some relatively consistent phases throughout COVID, stemming from the March-April timeframe. And they really respond, recover, and reimagine. So very, very distinct phases. And kind of the interesting thing about that is, depending on where you are geographically, you can be in any one of these phases or all of them at the same time. So, as you look to respond initially, a lot of our customers that we work with are intentionally focused on reimagine and innovation to make sure that they don't lose sight of the long-term benefits that they're trying to weave into their business and technology platform. So kind of we're back in respond in a way, depending on where you live. And, again, the work that we're doing with our clients across the industry is really bridging all 3 of those. So it's really an interesting time. One of the things that we've observed, and we work with our customers here specifically, is the ones that were more mature from a cloud adoption standpoint were much more able to handle the crisis better. They were more agile. They were able to leverage the elasticity, reliability, security that the cloud can offer. So these customers were able to respond very, very quickly. Some real specific examples, right? We have a large customer, actually a property and casualty insurer, that was able to turn a 40,000 person call center who typically went to the office, we enabled them to work remotely in 3 days. And that was a very, very mature Azure customer of ours. So they had built that foundation over years, and they were able to really flip a switch and enable that in only a couple of days' time, which is fantastic. The flip side of that is some of the banks that we work with actually couldn't even participate in the Paycheck Protection Program. because of infrastructure limitations, physical infrastructure limitations. So they literally couldn't respond, which was for them a missed business opportunity and a way to help people. So they really missed out on that opportunity. And then others like wealth managers were able to really burst into the cloud to take advantage of the raw compute power for things like risk and high performance computing. So again, those three phases we continue to see, and I think we'll be in one or all of them over the next few months still.
Thanks, Mike, for sharing those perspectives. And I agree. Now that we've passed the respond phase, it's extremely important that we help financial services institutions focus on reimagine and recover so that they'll be well prepared should another situation happen again. But beyond enabling remote work, how have you seen cloud impact financial services organizations, and how can it help them remain resilient in the face of future shocks?
Yeah, so resiliency is a really, really important topic for us and our clients. And, it really does start with people. So empowering your employees throughout this has been really a catalyst for digital transformation in general, and really just the tip of the iceberg for us and our customers. So, again, getting the people piece of the equation right is critical. And, sometimes it could be overlooked. Like we kind of get focused on the technology, and the business challenge. And the thing about it all is, people are the fuel that really drive transformation generally. So it's so important to get the people part right. And we as a company have gone to some tremendous lengths to help our clients and their folks up-level their skills from a cloud adoption standpoint. So whether it's AI Business School from a business standpoint, or deep technical certification tracks around cloud architecture or data science, the company's really investing deeply here, knowing that at some point we'll come out of this, and the investments that you're making in your talent and people will pay dividends long term. We also see changes in processes. Like a lot of customers are looking at opportunities to streamline some of the things that they've done. In this space, in capital markets specifically, there are clients that have worked on front to back office solutions, like complete front to back office solutions, really enabling their customers with a one-stop shop to enable them from a wealth management standpoint. And I know we'll talk about data in a sec. Infusing intelligence into pretty much everything that you're doing, whether it's capturing those data signals at the edge or including it in terms of customer engagement, it is something that we're seeing permeate the industry, and that I don't think that'll ever change. So just the ability to infuse intelligence in everything is really critical for our customers.
Mike, it's clear that we're seeing an upward trend of the proliferation of data and the speed of events reaching pandemics or peaks during the pandemic. In our two previous FSI Friday sessions, we talked about data modernization and analytics as a service to help enable our financial services customers to do more with their data. On this topic of data, can you talk to us about how organizations have harnessed the cloud to be able to keep up?
Yeah, data is really at the heart of what we're doing now and what our customers are doing. And to your point, right, going digital means there's more data collected every second of every day than any time in the past. And cloud is an enabler of all that, to either capture, connect this data, and allow people to make better decisions. When you think about just that proliferation, IDC, which is a firm that we lean on heavily from a data market analysis standpoint, estimates that in 5 years, the world's data will climb to 175 zettabytes. Just to put that in perspective for a sec, right? If you were to store all of that data in a stack of Blu-ray discs, you'd be able to get to the moon and back 23 times. So when we think about that proliferation of data, it is exploding, right? And without the right people, process, and capabilities in place, it could be difficult to answer fundamental questions for our clients. So they're asking themselves this every single day, right? What data do I have? Like, what have I collected? Is it trustworthy? Are people getting the data they need to make the right decision at the right time? Are they getting it fast enough? And are they managing that data in a compliant way? And we think about that for a sec, like there's some analysis done that found organizations that embrace data to drive transformation experience a 54% growth in revenue and profits, and 62% enhancements to customer satisfaction and 44% faster time to market. That's an analysis done by Harvard Business Review. And it's something that we're seeing play out in real time. Relative to their peers, the stakes are very, very high, and an organization's growth prospects really depend on data at its core. And for us, right, we think about it from the edge to the data center. So we enable companies and clients to capture data at that edge. The platform is tremendously robust, and that edge gives us a seamless experience to allow customers to enable that digital transformation across the entire platform. One of the things that we're doing very specifically is in our IoT space, our Internet of Things space, and we have a platform, a digital twins platform, that some of our customers are exploring deeply, which is sometimes overlooked in the financial services space, IoT specifically. But gosh, like our customers more than ever are looking for ways to enable this technology across the entire platform. One of the things we also see is around machine learning and artificial intelligence. And we feel our AI platform is the most complete and differentiated in the entire industry. It is actually the most widely used platform on the planet right now. When we think about it from a cognitive services perspective, like we're doing things like speech to text translation for call centers. We're doing things like optical character recognition for analyst reports to provide insights into kind of the reams of data people have collected over the years. So, tons of work going on in this space, some really cutting edge stuff. And we'll continue to invest here, right? We just made an acquisition in July, a company called ADRM, which is really a data modeling company that provides industry-specific data models. And then on the developer side, right, all of this is fueled by development. I think it's pretty widely known that we bought GitHub a few years ago, and we continue to invest here as well, right? We're introducing a solution with GitHub that allows customers to do development in a compliant way, a secure, compliant way. So, that is something that we actually worked on with our customers, feedback specifically from our financial services firms that said, hey, you know what, if we're going to do this, a lot of what we do from a development standpoint is IP. And we're not really comfortable having that out in the internet. So we did a ton of work to make sure that we're introducing a platform that gives them that ability to collaborate and develop securely in a compliant way, which is exciting. And that'll release over the next probably 4 to 6 weeks or so.
So, Mike, I love how you connected all these pieces that illustrates Microsoft's cohesive story to connect data in a way that helps financial services organizations make the best decisions possible. For example, you spoke about speech to text, and we had a previous session on call centers and analyzing sentiment to help improve customer experience. You also just mentioned, GitHub, and we do have an upcoming GitHub session on December 11th. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into that topic. But can we now shift to a topic that's near and dear to this industry's heart, security? Tell us what's happening at the forefront of the secure cloud.
Yeah, I mean, security was a question that we get constantly, early days of cloud, right? Like, hey, we're not comfortable putting things out in the cloud. Is it secure? Is it compliant? We don't normally get those questions anymore, but customers really want to understand how it's done now. I think it's a given that clients will use the cloud pervasively across their business and technology platforms. And for us, really, it's grounded on a concept of zero trust. And we've actually been doing some zero trust briefings for our clients across the financial services space. And it's really grounded in some foundational pillars. Those are identity, devices, applications, the network, and data. And for us, like having the ability to connect all these things across those very specific strategic pillars is critically important. So we want to make sure we get those right. And we're working with customers in partnership to not just make them aware of the pillars, but put it into practice, right? Making sure that we're helping them actually adopt. There's some other things that we're doing as well. There's a concept of confidential computing, which is actually something that's been in place for a couple of years. It started out in one of our data centers in Texas, and it's based actually on physical hardware to enable clients to collaborate securely. So there's this concept of secure enclaves where two actually competitors can come into those enclaves, and the security is done at the hardware level to make sure that whatever somebody is doing is completely secure end to end, including the processing of that data or whatever it is, calculations that a customer's involved in. So the confidential computing paradigm for us has existed for quite a while, and we're really starting to see some compelling use cases in the financial services space, and customers willing to put, what in essence had been things that they would never thought of putting in the cloud alongside their competitors in kind of a partnership way. And we've got tons of examples, right? Whether it's financial services, parallel industries like healthcare. I think it's pretty widely known of the JEDI work that we're doing with the federal government. So a lot of those things we're actually taking and baking it into the platform itself to make sure that everything that we do, again, is secure and compliant, top to bottom.
So thanks, Mike, for really laying that foundation of productivity and security and identity being at the core, and also what confidential computing will unlock for our financial services customers. But now let's shift over to Shaka. Let's put you in the hot seat again. For our audience who may not be aware, you spent over 25 years in the financial services industry with your time at JP Morgan, Citadel, Lazard, and before joining Microsoft at Bridgewater. I'm interested to hear, and I'm sure our audience as well, as to what made you switch from finance to technology. What was the opportunity that you saw here?
Yeah, look, for me, one thing was apparent was that technology was impacting everything around me. It was simply not an option. And having the ability to have a wider view on financial services and to see how we can leverage Subvertical's best practices when it comes to using technology to provide concrete business outcomes was something that drove my decision. Look, we think about technology as a set of building blocks that can be assembled in different ways, right? A million different ways, and provide very innovative and unheard of solutions. Pretty much like, I don't know, with the notes of a piano, right? There are 88 keys in a piano, and you can produce an infinite number of music being born from those keys. I think about it as, a billion, a trillion, an infinite number of symphonies that are possible.
Shaka, I played classical piano since I was 5, so I really love that piano analogy. And sometimes you don't hit those keys perfectly, but you keep moving on. And with practice, you can only get better. While working in the alternatives business, I'm sure you've seen technology impacting every part of the business. What was the most interesting aspects that resonated most with you that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, that's interesting. Most interesting to me, I think, was the continual impact that technology was and is having on portfolio managers' abilities to construct idiosyncratic return streams. And in particular, I witnessed a bifurcation in successful outcomes between those teams and firms who levered technology well and those who did not. So firms that use technology well integrated in a systematical way in their organizations seem to thrive. And so this knowledge informed how I adopted and used technology in various roles in the alternative asset management business. I was in hedge funds for the last decade of my career in asset management prior to that. So at JP Morgan, I learned how to do things like, pulling differentiated insights from our CRM system to build thoughtful, heat maps of prospecting activities to raise billions of dollars of capital from investors. This practice drove me to rally around developing, co-developing, but building and acquiring CRM systems instead of distribution for the Americas at Citadel and head of the alternatives business at Lazard. So in fact, at Lazard, I even used my own P&L to acquire a digital visualization software to make the process to derive key insights more efficiently. That was informing, that drove business outcomes for me and my team. So because of these experiences, I've always asked thoughtful questions about how technology could improve business outcomes in the financial services space and in my businesses. But the answers to me weren't always clear. I wanted to know if technology was impacting the industry just as it had impacted the roles that I'd been in. And if not, there was a huge opportunity I perceived there, right? So I also asked myself an important question. How did I want to spend the duration of my working life? I realized that I wanted to spend it chasing this type of opportunity, literally the cutting edge of what was possible in the industry, and had capabilities to address it at a unique place and unique environment where people were driven to do that, Microsoft. And so an example of this is our recent announcement of a strategic partnership with BlackRock to host BlackRock's Aladdin infrastructure on the Microsoft Azure cloud platform, bringing enhanced capabilities to BlackRock and to its Aladdin customers and clients. But which included many of the world's most sophisticated institutional investors, the asset owners, the wealth managers, and insurers of the world. So that was intriguing, and boy, has it been a run.
Shaka, thank you for joining Microsoft. I think you've brought a lot of this kind of, visionary, and even with some of the examples that you've shared here, is really starting to inspire our other financial services customers in terms of how they can leverage technology to drive business outcomes. But reflecting on your time here at Microsoft and knowing what you know now, what would have been helpful in those previous roles in finance? Better yet, what advice do you have for our financial services audience here today?
Well, as I mentioned before, technology is impacting everything, and I've become more convinced that capital markets, the financial services industry broadly, the capital markets patch that I'm serving, is the most data-driven component of the industry, right? Firms must recognize that data is one of the most valuable assets it has. Those organizations, those teams that utilize and think intelligently about the data around them, processes, fundamental research analysts who are doing the regular process of work, they're not quantum mental, they're not quantitative, but they've got insight. Figure out ways to capture that insight, to lever, to compound on the learnings from that is an extraordinary advantage. So I have an even greater understanding of how data can be levered in all processes of investment management. I found that, I would often face challenges that needed to be solved through technology. I would just go out and purchase one-off technologies to get my work done in the best way I saw fit. So, for example, throughout my career, I have been, I think, very successful in leveraging third-party sources of inside intelligence like Preqin or Money Market Directory as something that I lever to extract intelligence to deeply understand the scenarios of my clients and customers. I prioritize this with creating heat maps of prospect targets as the leader of distribution teams at hedge fund and traditional asset management firms. And that built thoughtful business planning. But while I was doing that, others in the firm may have done the same thing. What I realize now is that there is a partnership, a relationship you need to build with your technology team to bring new products, new insights into the firm responsibly, and while solving your own challenges in the best way possible. So this integration of having a digital transformative mindset, leveraging technology, along with driving business outcomes is so very critical to every single business, every single opportunity in the financial services industry.
Shaka, thanks for sharing that perspective and advice. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's just making sure that you're building those partnerships and relationships and driving those business outcomes. And no, those are extremely important perspectives. And Mike, let's turn it over to you. Help our audience understand how Microsoft can help our financial services customers and some of the next steps to help them get started on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, we see so much momentum across our financial services clients in space, capital markets specifically, to Shaka's point. And we feel like we can help in a bunch of different ways. First off, our end-to-end integrated portfolio of solutions. This is across Microsoft 365, our business applications platform, and Azure. Together with our Power Platform, we're built on a foundation of security and privacy and help every organization and every industry build resilience and improve the bottom line more than anything else. We've been doing a bunch of work with our data and artificial intelligence team. We actually have a team of data scientists that will work with our customers to help build out solutions that are tied back to their business to make sure that they're actually getting business value out of those artificial intelligence capabilities. And those individuals, we've actually engaged our clients very, very proactively to help them think about and test out, this area of technology and how to apply it to their business. More than anything else, I mean, you could reach out to any one of us or your Microsoft contact if you want to delve deeper into any one of these topics. We're always looking for thought leadership from our clients to help us make the platforms better. We gave you a couple examples earlier around GitHub. We pretty much do that across the board. We want to build platforms and technologies and solutions that our clients can take full advantage of day one and anticipate what's coming. So a couple things, right? One is Learn. We actually have a broad Microsoft Learn platform that anybody can take advantage of today for free. Take us up on our enterprise skills initiative. Like we're doing a lot of work here. We're making those proactive investments in our customers. We talked about it earlier, whether it's AI Business School or deep technical certifications around infrastructure development or data science. We absolutely want to work in partnership with you there. We talked about those three phases, right? Respond, recover, and reimagine. We've seen more innovation go on across our financial services customers over the last few months than we've seen probably in the last few years. A lot of firms are really taking advantage of this time to try and innovate and think ahead. And from a security standpoint, we'd love to come in and talk to you about the Zero Trust platform and how we think about it. And I know our GitHub team would love to connect with any of you on the call to dive deeply into our secure GitHub platform.
Thanks, Mike. And we'll be sure to take these links and post them at the bottom of the description when we post it on our YouTube channel. Shaka and Mike, thank you very much for your time today and the helpful insights with your perspectives on the cloud in a post-COVID-19 world. What we learned today is clearly the world has changed and business resiliency is really top of mind. We discussed how Microsoft's view of resiliency across those 6 dimensions and the really interesting ways that FSI customers are doubling down on accelerating data and digital platforms by leveraging things like data and AI and machine learning, enhanced security, even our virtual collaboration capabilities. We heard how we are working with our customers to ensure that they're intentionally focused on reimagining as they recover, since we know that innovation will be the way that they respond or even avoid these situations in the future. Like Mike said, if you're interested in starting this journey or in the middle of it or would like some guidance, please reach out to your Microsoft account teams and we can schedule a visiting session or follow-up. Thank you again, Shaka and Mike, for sharing your perspectives. This has been really insightful. Edwin, let's move to Q&A and see what some of our viewers are asking.
You got it, Johansson. So I have a question here from Anonymous. You mentioned, I think this is for you, Shaka. You mentioned that clients will need to become future ready after addressing the impact of the crisis. What will a future ready client experience look like?
Future ready. I can anticipate things like hybrid. We're not fully Microsoft customer, acquired technologies, that we've got to be agile in the ways that we adapt things that we lever as part of our business. Future ready would encompass things like that, I'd say.
We got another question in here in the chat window. This is coming from Anonymous. They want to understand, I think this is probably directed towards you, Mike. Want to understand, talked about data and intelligence. How does it manifest itself in the platform? And what can our financial services customers do proactively to kind of get started here?
Yeah, so we try to start with business outcomes first. So when we think about whether it's differentiated client experiences or core platform modernization or thinking about organizational risk. So we usually start there and we kind of from there work our way backwards through the platform itself. For us, it is one of our key investment areas as a company. And a lot of what we're doing now, like I mentioned earlier, some of the data science work that we do as part of that specialized team that we actually work with customers on, is to start with the business outcome somebody's trying to achieve, and then help them either build prototypes, proof of concepts, pilots around a given solution that would typically incorporate different areas of our data platform. And for us, we try not to think about it in silos. Like we understand that to solve some of these problems, it's a complete solution. It includes the application, it includes the data, it includes security. Oftentimes it is hybrid in nature, depending on what problem that company is trying to solve, and with some data residency challenges in some ways. So more than anything else, it's just engaging and getting started. And that's where we would come in, is to help think through and work through some of these things.
We got one more question from Anonymous. Shaka spoke about capital firms markets being the most data-driven industry. What do you anticipate for the upcoming year in the capital markets landscape?
Yeah, I'll just that. One of capital markets customers are market-driven, right? So that means that we've been their decision-making is motivated and moved by markets. We've seen stock markets at record highs. We've seen the cost of borrow to be reduced to the most efficient and cheapest levels, in a generation. That's going to fuel continuing M&A activity, right? So you're going to see the continued consolidation in our space that you've seen with Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Franklin, Templeton, Lake Mason. Those kind of accretive deals you're going to continue to see as a result. And so also, I think we'll see more market moving events that will drive record high trading volumes, right? So increased volatility, that's going to be something that would impact asset managers across traditional and alternative space, liquid markets, private markets, private equity firms and hedge funds. They're going to be impacted in this way. And so firms, it'll test, I think, firms' ability for resiliency in these technology platforms, which we just witnessed recently with the announcement of COVID-19. But those kind of activities are going to continue, if not be exacerbated. And then I say the rise of new and emerging things that weren't considered before. So you hear a lot in this patch around ESG, environmental social governance, green tech and green investing in bonds and things like that. That's going to increasingly be something of meaningful consideration in this space. And this has already happened. But we're seeing this be more front and center, not something auxiliary to how firms engage their customers and how they're wiring for the future. And so firms are focusing on how to integrate environmental, social, governance issues into their investing process as clients are demanding it. This is a huge push to connect ESG data sources and pipelines into these firms. So the challenge is to be future ready for those dynamics and others.
Thanks, Shaka. That's the ESG topic is something that we actually covered in a previous FSI Friday session. So for those of you that are watching, feel free to go back and watch that session and really double down on that topic. Mike, looks like we have another question here around coming from Anonymous, talking about a lot of their data today is in an on-premises environment in their data center today. And we talked a lot about cloud and AI. How does a customer take that data that's in their on-premises data center and shift towards this cloud approach to take advantage of some of the things that we talked about here today?
Yeah, so a couple things there, right? The entire approach for us has always been based in a hybrid way. Like we built in hybrid capabilities from day one. And, recognizing specifically for this industry that customers will probably be operating in a hybrid state forever. For various reasons, whether it's data sovereignty or security related or geopolitical in nature, most of our clients will always be hybrid. And one of the things that we for us we look at is increasing the security capabilities of the platform to make sure that customers are comfortable putting sensitive data out in the cloud. Like we mentioned GitHub specifically. There's something called GitHub AE that is being released before the end of the year, that it was codenamed GitHub Private Instance. They've rebranded it, and that will be a secure development solution that customers can take full advantage of so they can feel comfortable putting IP out there, as just one specific example. But we have customers across the industry that are putting very sensitive data out there today, and that will just continue as we continue to include some of those security capabilities that customers demand in the platform itself. We mentioned Jedi work that will manifest itself in the platform. Shaka mentioned the partnership with BlackRock that will continue to manifest itself in the platform. And as this evolves, we'll see more and more data out in the cloud across the entire industry.
Thanks, Mike. So it looks like we're out of time. Thanks everyone for attending live, or those of you that are watching on YouTube. If you haven't already, be sure to register for FSI notification and invites by visiting aka.ms/FSI Fridays. We're also open to your constructive feedback, so please send us your comments and suggestions at aka.ms/FSI Fridays feedback. Be sure to watch all our previous recordings on our YouTube channel, where you can post also your follow-up questions that weren't covered today. And also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Edwin, we have a great lineup to start December and end the year off right. Why don't you give an audience a preview of what's next and what's happening for the rest of the month?
Absolutely, Johansson. So here's our upcoming lineup for Development December. On December 4, we sit down with Ed Fandry, Vice President of U.S. Financial Services, as we learn how to nurture and develop your career in times of crisis. On December 11, we join David Ateek and Eric Barron and discover how GitHub is a de facto facility to build workload migration and modernization strategies in the cloud. That is the true power of open source adoption, and that's how we're going to deliver rapid customer success with GitHub as the source of truth. And finally, on December 18, we speak with Charles Morris and Akiva Shmulov to discuss the trends we're seeing in data science and AI across financial services, how firms can maximize the return of the AI investment, and how Microsoft is partnering with our financial services to create value using data science and AI. You won't want to miss it. Thanks, and see you next time on FSI Fridays.